I'm in Holyoke. I just pulled over in like a shopping mall. I'm on my way to Amherst because I have a conference tomorrow. So my intention was to make it here on time, but I didn't make it quite as far as I thought I would. Uh, I got to see the soccer games. That was what was important. So thanks everyone for being here at 6:31, and I'll call the meeting to order. And I need a light. That's not going to work unless I turn my car on. Okay, first item on the agenda is to accept the agenda, make amendments as necessary, and then accept the agenda is what I should say. Does anyone have any amendments to make to the agenda?
Nope. Motion to accept agenda as presented.
Thank you. Any second?
This is
Here,
Connecticut
I'll
Public.
second.
And
Thanks, Mike. All in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? I see none. That motion carries. Thank you. Next item is to amend if necessary and then accept the minutes of our regular meeting in October 11th. Does anyone have any amendments, corrections to make to the minutes?
No, they look
Looking good.
okay. Motion to accept minutes as written.
Thanks, Melissa. A second.
I wasn't there. I don't think I can.
You can,
Somebody
actually,
get a second. I'll do it. I'll second. I'm seconding. All in favor, raise your hand, please. If any are opposed, seeing none, that motion carries. Liddy.
Yes. Oops. Treasurer's report. I sent it around. I don't know if you all saw it. Okay. Basically, no surprises except for the fact that our budget has been totally slashed. And so we have a total of $423 to spend as opposed to $2,500. So that took me by surprise, but it
How
doesn't.
is that possible?
So it's, yeah, I'm confused because I was at every single budget meeting or I watched it and there was no discussion of a budget cut to the Conservation Commission meeting. So I'm not.
Well, as I said in one of my messages, I did send a request to our town treasurer to have, how was this calculated? Is it just a formula? Do they just apply a percentage? I have no idea, and I haven't heard back.
Right. So I would just say that it's possible that it's a mistake because.
Okay, but in defense of the town, we have not spent our budget for 4 years running. So I can well imagine that they would like to cut it.
But they would be the Board of Selectmen, and the Board of Selectmen did not discuss that. So
Okay, you may be right, Melissa. I'm just saying that if someone has decided to cut our budget, it makes sense, frankly.
One would think that they would contact us if they wanted to do that, so that they would give us some indication of their desire to cut it and allow us the opportunity to make some decisions for ourselves. So
Okay, so more to come probably next time, but I
Okay.
will continue to work on it and see if I can get some answers from Barbara Herbst.
I mean,
But
there are
wasn't the
there are some things that we
budget
clearly.
approved already?
I'm sorry,
sorry, one at a time.
Yos, go ahead.
Wasn't the budget approved already?
yes.
I mean,
Yes.
we're in the middle of the budget season. You can't just cut.
Yes, but you
once
see,
you're in
I
it.
didn't see the reports last time. They were certainly published, but I was not in the country, so I was not aware of that and didn't alert you all to that.
I think I'm going on an error and I think it'll be resolved. So I don't think we should spend too much time on it since we have a really.
Okay, no, I don't think we should either. I just, because it's, whatever, whether it's an error or not, I don't have any more information until I get more from the town.
And I think Connie's point is the best, that if we have to take a cut, since we didn't spend a lot of it, at least we should have some choices of what should be cut and not. I mean, they cut everything on the library program and we did spend that last year. So I think Melissa is correct. Let's just wait until we get some more information.
Sounds good. Okay. That is the treasurer's report, except we also have the Cougar Fund. And that we got more books printed. We now have a total of 65 books in hand. And we have a $10,673 in the Cougar Fund for what the Cougar Fund's for. And then we also have another $387 for maintaining the trees that we've planted. Good. Oh, and we did sell an NCRI, a National Cultural Resources Inventory book. Somebody knew about it and went to the library and begged them for one. And they put me in touch with, and I do have a few of them, so we sold it. So we have another $25 went into the Cougar Fund.
Great.
And that's it for the treasurer's report.
Thank you. Okay, ready to move on, people? We're good? Okay. Next item on the agenda is public comment. I will reflect and welcome the fact that Bruce Bennett is here as a member of the public, but also as an invited guest. So Bruce, I just wanted to give you the opportunity, if you felt like you wanted to make a public comment, but if not, we'll move right into the agenda item that involves you, where you have been invited to speak.
That's fine.
Okay, so no public comment, and we're moving right on to right into our agenda, old business, with item 6A, which is about street trees and what we should do moving forward to create or to think about how we're going to approach tree planting as a commission. And there are several components of that, as Carol has outlined on the agenda. One of them being what the town is doing to catalog its trees, street trees and others. What other towns have done that we might look at and learn from. A proposal before us that is related to a tree needed on Swifts Lane. And then finally, what more or what our next steps are to move forward on our own tree planting program. So I think maybe, Bruce, we should have you speak first about the information that that Yost forwarded us through, that came from you about everything that you've been doing to inventory the town's trees and to think about tree planting in town and tree management in town. Why don't we start with that?
Sure. First of all, what we're doing town-wise, meaning not only in the center of town, but out on the roads, as we've been tagging hazard trees in anticipation of a grant, or not a grant, a legislative expenditure that the state has agreed to of $15 million to assist towns in removing hazard trees. So this is a real windfall for Connecticut towns. I'm still trying to find out exactly how the grant works. I've got to call into Maria to be able to detail it. The initial bill did not have a limit on it, but they later put a limit on it, which I think was really smart. In Cornwall, what we're hoping to do is to convince the legislators to provide each town with their division of the money. So 169 divided into 15 million comes up with like 100 and something thousand per town. And that would do a really nice job of taking care of the trees. In Kent, luckily, and this is a plus for Eversource, which I really have to thank them for, they spent $400,000 removing trees in Kent last year and the year before. That does not include the pruning, that includes just tree removal. And I've worked really well with them, and they've worked really well with me. So they always get the bad rap when anything happens, but they've been just fantastic working with the town of Kent in removal of the trees. As far as the town is concerned, I did an inventory of possible sites for trees. I didn't do an inventory of the existing trees, but that will come in the future. And what I've found is that we have locations for approximately 50 trees. Now, whether the homeowner will allow us to do that or not, that's something that we'll find out in the future, and how we will approach all this is something that we'll further discuss tonight. this is my experience in the past with trying to plant trees in town. And that is that homeowners are very reluctant to allow the town to plant a tree on their property for fear of liability, and also the potential that they may have to take care of the trees. So you'll find on some of the trees where there's open space, where I probably asked the homeowner if they would allow us to plant, and the answer is no, I don't want the liability. The fact is that Connecticut state law really limits the liability with trees doing damage to streets, cars, or people for that matter. You really have to, they have to prove that the homeowner knew that the tree was going to hurt someone and that they therefore would be liable for that thing. So the liability thing is really very questionable, but everybody's worried about lawsuits these days. So I know that initially the way we did it, or the way I've done it in the past, is I would just approach a homeowner, tell them that we have X number of dollars to be able to plant the trees. Would they be willing to let me plant the trees on the properties? And some say yes, some say no. And I would really say it's about a 50-50. So I know I was approached by the Conservation Commission to cite 3 trees in front of the gun shop, the Rinberg gun shop in town, which I did. I spoke with them. They were very happy to have them. And then I've got a note, another note saying, hold up, we wanted the people to not only pay for the trees, but I believe it was also take care of the trees. And I really think that's a big stretch. And I just don't think you're going to get the trees planted that we need to plant. Here's something else, however, and this goes beyond that, in that there are grants available to plant trees. I know that you wanted to work out of the fund that you have and just do a little bit at a time. But there are grants that are available from CIRCA, I think it is.
Sustainable CT.
Sustainable CT, that's right.
We're not
that-
eligible yet, unfortunately.
You're not eligible?
No.
Oh, I met with the grant people and they assured me that you were. There are a total of 3 grants. We're not available for one, but the other 2 grants we are. And the one that seemed like it was most intriguing was the one where they would match any monies that we had up to $8,000, $7,800, I think was the total. So if we could get 8,000, they could get 8,000. That's 16,000. We could do a lot of tree planting for $16,000. Anyway,
Yeah.
that's above and beyond. But my question, I think the point of tonight is to, have told you the difficulty in trying to get homeowners to pay for and take care of their trees. It hasn't worked in the past. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about how you might be able to make it work. in the
Bruce,
future.
if they don't have to pay for the tree, but are asked to maintain it, water it, weed around it, whatever, is that more acceptable?
No, the only person that we ever had take care of a tree was the church on the corner of the Episcopal Church and one of the Kent School houses.
What about the ones we planted on Elizabeth Street?
Yeah, Lydia, I want to just make a distinction there because actually, Bruce, the Conservation Commission has been successful in getting people not only to pay for their trees, but to agree to maintain them. So it's interesting that you've had that experience. We didn't have that experience when we've done this in the past. And part of what we're wrestling with right now is that it feels, first of all, it feels inconsistent with our own experience of wanting to engage people in why it's so important to have street trees to begin with. But it also feels inconsistent to the way that we worked with people in the past, because it wasn't that long ago. It was, within a lot of people's memory on Elizabeth Street that we made them pay for their trees. So it seems very strange to them that we would not only pay for the entire cost of somebody's tree who basically told us they were not interested in taking care of it. That seems so weird. It just doesn't seem like the right way to go,
Yeah,
Just
what we
one
did in the past is,
clarification. When we say pay for the tree, I believe we're not saying total cost of the tree, it's like 50%.
Yep.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay.
Two suggestions. One is, do you think that people would be more amenable if we gave them a choice of trees so that they felt they were participating from the start, just psychologically? And secondly, maybe we could get what's her name, O'Mara, to speak about how happy they are with the trees. They got 2 trees in their front yard. They're very happy with them. The trees are thriving. And that's the house on the corner of Bridge Street and Elizabeth. You know, somebody could call up a person and say, how was your experience? They love it.
And do they have to do much maintenance? I think, even if we solve the
I
paying
mean,
for the
in
tree.
truth, how much maintenance do most of us do for most of our trees? Until they're near senescence. No, I don't think that's been a big issue with them. I mean, the fire department did do some watering, which was wonderful. But
And that was just initially.
yeah, once the trees are, I guess, well rooted and life goes on, the trees pretty much take care of themselves, except in extreme conditions.
Yeah, it's just the initial plantings when you need to water trees, perhaps the first 2 years.
Mm.
In the past, we have had the fire department take care of that, and they were glad to do that. But I understand that they're significantly short-staffed these days, so I'm not sure that's an option anymore.
Could you just describe in more detail how much watering?
So what we do when we plant a tree is you build a well that holds water. Usually that well we hold minimum of 25 gallons up to 50 gallons. So each watering you need to do a 50-gallon application of water, especially in Kent, because we're on a gravel bank. There's nothing but gravel and sand under us. So it dries out pretty quick, and that's once a week. Now, this also depends upon the weather. A drought, absolutely. But if there's not a drought, like this year, you wouldn't have to water them every day. You could do it almost every 3 weeks. I mean, every week. You would do it almost every 3 weeks. So it's a certain demand, but Wendy's right. If you water the tree for the first year or 2, they're pretty much on their own after that, and they'll do well.
I'd so much rather have the Conservation Commission be responsible for creating a program that celebrates people's willingness to have a tree. I mean, it's
We
what
could
we
feature.
want. We
Yeah.
don't want to be like, we want you to plant a tree so badly that we'll pay for it and we'll water it. We want to say, we really want to support you in having a beautiful tree in your yard. And in order to help that, we would like to defray your costs. We're creating this program so we can basically, provide an incentive and support to you around this, and some consultation perhaps in where the best site is to plant it and what good local trees might be. And if they really don't want a tree, if they're really that worried about the liability, and I'm not really sure, by the way, that just because the town bought it and planted it, that if it grew up and fell on someone's car, that suddenly liability belongs to the town any more than the landowner whose property it's. I mean, that's not a real way to dodge liability.
No, the whole
if-
liability thing is really not an important issue.
Right, because the law is in favor of the landowner anyway.
If
So-
we voted as a group, we'd like to go ahead with this, I'll bet I could create, with Bruce's help, a wonderful brochure that would make the argument. We could put these brochures on every porch and say, here's a great thing, money coming in from the state and this and that, all the positives, and something about, what Main Street looked like back in the old days and what a beautiful thing it was. And we would like to bring Kent back to that lushness.
If we
So-
got people to jump on board and with that mindset, we still have the obstacle of how would we help them if they wanted to do that much water? I mean, is there, given that
50
the fire
gallons
department
isn't
is
that
not-
much water. It's really
not-
not. You stand there
not?
with a
Okay.
hose for 20 minutes.
Well,
Okay.
people need to have a hose, and that's one thing.
Come on.
We have
And-
not
and
had
I'm
this
wondering-
problem. Like setting up this program is
Yeah.
the easiest part of the whole thing. We have not had a problem convincing people each year. We've set a limit and we'll do it. I mean,
No, I just was,
Uh,
his comment about the fire department really not being available is a real factor. So we
The
would
fire
just have to, in
department-
the brochure, we would have to just not offer that possibility, but offer other ways, just describe what they'd have to do and make it sound easier.
Right, and the
but
fire
Bruce, wasn't
department's
it the-
like
the,
involvement
highway
was, they took
department?
like their junior firefighters. I have photos of this. They're so
Yeah.
fun. Bruce, I have them of you too. The day that we did the planting on Elizabeth Street.
Yeah.
Because the fire department took out its junior firefighters, students from Marvelwood, and they had them with the hose, and it was like a practice and a learning, so it was like, that was very nice. And as Bruce is pointing out, that may not be possible given the staffing that they have available to them right now. They need to focus first on keeping everyone safe. But if they were able to do that, great. But in the end, standing outside with a hose and letting 50 gallons spill out of it is not too terrible. But yes, you need a source for water.
So can I
So
ask?
what
you just-
about the commercial properties? Would there be a difference there in how they will maintain? I mean, are they just as interested in maintaining?
Like
Are
for
we
instance, the
talking-
gun shop, you mean?
Yeah,
Well,
the
are
gun
there
shop
other
or
commercial
the
places,
places on
Bruce,
Main
that you would-
Street, a lot of commercial properties. So if they get a tree, will they take care of it as well as individual homeowners on Elizabeth?
Bruce,
Street?
are any other commercial places on your list of possible sites?
Yeah, all along Main Street, North and South Main.
why would a commercial property be any different? They're signing a contract that we've outlined. We used this contract before. We would just update the contract. I'm not really sure why they would be any different. They're all community people, whether they actually reside here, they have property here.
Do they even have like outdoor water?
Yeah.
tap
Yeah, most of them do. Yes, that's,
In-
don't
in the
worry about
village?
that.
Yes, absolutely.
A trick I think we could try is to show an example of what their property would look like with a tree. I mean, you could create those.
Today,
virtual
we could do
reality-
anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
When you
we
see
could
how
start with the
barren
low-hanging
places
fruit and then convince everyone.
yeah,
Right? There've got to be people, as much as we want the trees where we looked and saw a gap, there've got to be people who would welcome having a tree planted on their property. And maybe the success of the program might be an incentive to owners that were hesitant. in the
they'll
beginning.
wonder why they didn't take advantage of it. And, are you going to do it next year too?
So what's the next step, folks? Because I unfortunately do have to leave shortly, but I would love to know where we can go from now.
We do have one proposal on the table that if we wanted to have a success this year, if we felt like we wanted to, just be able to make use of the fall planting season, you saw the proposal from the Backrocks to plant a memorial tree on Swift's Lane. Now, we sent the picture out. So the one thing that I want to make clear is that this is a tree in the village center, but not fronting on the village streets. So it's, up to the commission to think about that, share their thoughts, and we could make.
I think that's fine.
But they did indicate that they would care for it and that they were willing to pay for half of the cost. And we could take pictures from that and use them for our fancy brochure that we shop around for the rest of the year, lining up people for next fall.
So
I
would you
would
sell it for half price then? Or have them pay 50%, and if so, pay 50% of wholesale or 50% of resale?
We're paying 50% of what we pay.
Whatever
So
Bruce
getting
tells
the
us.
tree at wholesale this time, we get it at wholesale. If we have to pay it for retail, it's still 50% of what we pay. This is town funds. We're
Let's
not
back up
marking
for a
a
second, though.
price.
What do people think about the proposal?
Well,
I like it.
I had one question about it, and it struck me that they said that they read an article in the GTD about tree placements. And there was no article in the GTD that I saw about that. Did I miss something?
I didn't see
didn't
it
see it.
either. I was wondering about that too, but I'm having a hard time understanding the format of the GTD, so I let that go.
No,
Um,
I read it religiously and I archived it and I couldn't find it. So I just wanted to know that there wasn't something I missed.
I
Okay,
didn't see it either, Carol.
so basically, do we want to go ahead? This is a definite proposal.
I'll go
And-
straight to Catherine Bowden because I know her quite well and get something in there.
I'd like to, can I move that we go ahead with this proposal of theirs and support it?
Yes,
Will anybody second me?
I second you.
And we're
Okay,
thinking
sorry.
about supporting this because it has the elements of them paying half and
Correct.
of them agreeing to take care of it.
Correct.
But so the town will be planting it still?
But
Means
they
so the
also-
town would have, the town crew would have to agree also with this then, right?
But they
Nice.
also mention a
And Bruce,
particular,
if he
Yeah,
wants
I wanted to
bring it
ask
in
about the
also.
particular tree.
they mention a particular tree and I'm looking for where it is.
So Bruce,
And
can
we
you
wanna
tell
make
us?
sure
what
that
I think it was a linden.
It
Yes,
was.
the
and
linden
The
tree.
linden
Bruce,
tree.
Bruce,
Is a
can you
linden-
tell us
Bruce, what do
about a
you- what do
linden
you-
tree and the
Yeah.
the relative? Will it do well there? Is it native? All of that. Can you give us a rundown on the linden tree, please?
Well, we have native linden trees. It depends upon what linden they want to plant. If they want to do a native tree, that's a good idea.
Well,
it's a-
that's what I think we would be
We want to do a native
embracing
tree.
is that this whole program would only be necessarily native trees. That was
Well,
a component of this program.
yeah, there's a few trees that I would suggest getting a hybrid that are significantly disease resistant, like sycamore. But yes, most of them can be native. No problem with that. And a native linden is a great tree, big tree, large leaves, very hardy, a little susceptible to a few canker diseases, but not when it's out in the open on the wind like downtown Kent. To be fine.
So the location that they're asking, you would recommend.
I don't know where that is.
I can
Then-
share it. Bruce, also let me,
Or you want me to share?
no, I can do it. Hold on. So it's loading up. They
Along the
It's-
road to the
They
park.
intend for this tree to be a shade tree for a shuffleboard court that they are going to build. I believe it's going to be right here.
The shuffleboard court is there already, I believe. They
Yeah.
are
Okay.
already had shuffleboard tournaments.
This could be this is an old aerial.
Yeah.
Melissa, can you check me on what I'm saying then? Because she said it was sort of between the second and third building. Is it over here?
No,
Where is
it's the second, the middle building, next to the middle building.
This
Where you-
is where my arrow is.
Right.
Yeah, I think it's there already, but yes,
The shuffleboard court is, but the tree isn't.
correct, correct.
And
Considering the lack of shade in that area due to the parking for the fire department and for other reasons, seems like a good spot to me from that standpoint.
Yeah,
and
that
we're
looks good to me
understanding
as
that
well.
Our half of the money is going to come from the Cougar Fund.
Correct.
I'd also like to pursue this Sustainable Connecticut, the things that we are, the matching fund.
Well, I actually wondered if setting up this program might check a box on Sustainable Connecticut and get us towards that bronze
It does.
statue.
It
Yeah,
does.
so I mean, I'm feeling
Mm.
like we should not necessarily, I mean, should go ahead with this, but I think we should be creating this program so that it's in keeping with Sustainable CT, and we should be in contact with them to make sure that we don't put the cart before the horse, that we get credit for it. Cause what I've been learning
Okay, folks,
more about
folks.
is that if you do the program.
has to
before
go.
I do have to go, folks.
But he has to go.
they-
I will check the minutes religiously and find out what else happens. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have
Bye-bye.
a good night. I think that we could get it, being somebody who works in accreditation, I think that it would not penalize us in any way to be creating this program and pursuing its implementation at the same time as we
Right, I
are.
think we can do it at the same time. I don't, the fact that our Sustainable CT Kent group has fallen apart, I don't think that should hold us back, but I think that we should try to do this and make it get us the points to bring us towards bronze.
I think it's gonna be a likely thing that with a new administration, some more
We
light
have-
is gonna go into that sustainable project.
We have sustainable CT down further on our agenda.
Good,
So
okay.
I just
let's-
wanted to say
let's-
that I think Mike's point is really well taken, that it's not just how Main Street used to look or how pretty the trees are, that there really is a thing about shade and climate change. And that has to be inherent as part of our mission when we write up the description of the brochure that will come to follow what we're trying to do with people buying in.
I would agree. And we did not necessarily stick to Main Street. Bruce and I did trees around the town hall that we use Kuga
Yes.
funds for. We have not necessarily kept the Main Street as our focus, and I hope that the brochure would not limit that, because I do think that there's inevitably going to be outskirts
Yes,
that have
absolutely.
necessities.
Absolutely. So it's beyond Main Street and it's about climate change and shade as
So
well as beauty.
can I ask a question though about your program? So if you all only have money to be able to plant 2 or 3 trees a year, what you would do is propose a program that perhaps someone wouldn't get their tree for 4, 5, 6, 8 years.
Potentially.
first come, first serve, like they've done in other towns. And if we can get grant funding to fund more, then that's great.
And if we
Okay.
come out
So
with a
what
new
about
way of,
our list of priorities? I mean, if we think one place is more important than another place, even if people come in later with the request, shouldn't that count?
we have a limited number per year. I think that we set up our program so that it is pretty clear. There's a deadline. We're gonna have a new, as Wendy said, a new select board that will hopefully do a great newsletter that we can roll this out in. And it's about, pushing it out to the people. We're only doing planting once a year. We're not employing a crew of people to plant every single weekend or anything like that. We're not running a little landscape company with our Kuga fund.
How
We're
many trees are we thinking per year? I mean, I wasn't sure that we had formalized that number.
I don't think we have, Carol.
Well, it
think-
depends upon the value of the tree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
I think we'd be better off saying we have a dollar amount that we can spend.
Okay.
So if we can get wholesale trees, then we can plant more that year. And if we have to buy them retail, then we have less. And if it's an expensive tree, I think, we've talked about larger caliper trees, but we aren't running a landscape company here. We are.
Could
planting
also
trees.
accept donations, couldn't we?
We can. I think we have to talk to Barbara about that, and we could,
Goes into the
create a
Kuga
new
fund.
resource.
Well, we
of-
don't need to.
we could create a resource in Kent that would bring in more funding eventually, a new trails guide by a different, there's always possibilities, but we need to start somewhere.
Now, we
How
also have to give people the choice of size of tree, because not everybody wants to pay for a 3 to 3.5 inch caliper tree, which will be a lot more expensive than a 2 to 2.5 inch tree. So how do we deal with that?
Well, Yost, we could do that or we could not. I mean, that's really up to us. And if you look at the way that other towns have structured their programs, some of them have decided to do it quite simply with a dollar amount. And I suppose if you were going to say, we'll match your $400 to get an $800 tree, and somebody instead wanted to buy a $2,000 tree, then they pay $1,600 and we pay $400. I mean, there's flexibilities that you can create without throwing all kinds of
We could have a 2-tiered.
reasons why we
schedule
can't
or
do
something.
this. We can figure it out, and we could also make it easy on ourselves if we want to.
Yeah, I think we could set a limit up to $500. The resident pays the difference. I think there's ways to word it that we shouldn't be stymied by.
by the way, Rick was more than happy to be able to help us take care of digging the hole and planting the tree. So that would be nice if we have
Great.
town labor to
Yeah.
do that, because that's free.
What do you think it would cost for a linden tree if we wanted to? So because we have time, to work out the details of our program and design a flyer and all of that. And, but we don't have a lot of time if we want to plant a linden tree this year. Do
No,
you have
tonight.
any,
We're
what?
getting snow tonight.
Do you have any idea, Bruce, what like a ballpark?
Yeah,
might
you're
be,
talking
or what you would
325 to
suggest?
450, somewhere around there. 325
Or-
to 450. I could look it up quick here.
And what did they
I
say they would pay? I feel like they said 700.
They said they'd pay half and they thought that it could be as much as 700.
Well,
So if-
700 that's a 6 to 6.5 inch caliber tree.
Well, they want shade for their,
Yeah,
they have a little motivation here because they want shade for their shuffleboard court. So I would
Yeah.
assume that if we could get something where they're paying 700 and we're paying 700, but we have to decide if we're willing to pay 700.
So we could, well, if we paid 700, then it's a $1,400 tree. Is that necessary?
Right. I don't,
Because we could structure our motion tonight to be up to a certain dollar number, be conservative enough that we think that we can get a tree that would reasonably bear shade and not too long, a tree that we might be able to get our hands on, so not something where we're dreaming that a tree doesn't exist.
how quick
don't-
growing is a linden tree, Bruce?
how what?
How quick growing is this linden tree that we're dreaming up in our head?
I would call them a moderately, not a slow grower, not a fast grower, moderate. Here, I've got their catalog. It's 2.5 to 3 inch caliber linden is 485. Just to give you, and a 2.5 is 335.
What about a bigger one?
Wait, the
Yeah.
485 is how much? What was the
That's a
caliber?
3.5 inch caliber tree.
And I know
No,
Joseph
2.5 to
said
3. though.
how much
I'm
how
sorry,
much-
2.5 to 3, right? Sorry.
how much the town can, how big a tree can the town actually handle planting?
Oh, they can any size.
Oh, I thought you had said not over a certain caliber.
Well, that was if we're planting it, if Yost and I are, manhandling it into a hole. That's, you really, 2.5 to 3 is that would be a big tree to
Yeah.
deal with.
Bruce, is this a location that would have been on your mind if you were looking around for what areas would use some trees?
I didn't go down the Swift Road. So I didn't even think about that, but I agree with you. That's a real hot spot right there. And there's nothing alongside those buildings.
And I really like that it would help a lot of community members, not just one family.
Yeah.
So,
Right.
like
Yeah.
I like that. I think there's 25 to 26 people that live in that community that would benefit from this one tree.
Sure.
So for me, that feels really good. That feels
Yeah.
happy.
Yeah. So the only concern I have is that before you actually make a commitment, I would call around to find out availability. Because I am not sure about linden being dug in the fall. I can check that.
But if it's a spring dig, then we could make the motion now. We could make the plans. The Bach Rocks would be totally fine, I'm sure, with putting that together so that it happens. I
Yeah.
mean, like I said, weather is happening tonight. We're on the heels of winter here. Who knows?
Did you say
So
it's gonna
I
snow
read-
therefore?
Yeah, someone
I read their email.
reported it just now.
Okay.
I read
Let's-
their email as a willingness to pay up to $350 to match to get a tree that would be maybe $700 value. I don't know if that's reasonable or not, but given what you just told us, Bruce, it sounds pretty reasonable. So I don't know, there is a motion on the table to support the proposal. I would suggest that we actually withdraw that and be a little bit more specific in terms of the dollar ceiling that we're willing to support with a 50% payment out of the Cougar Fund. So I guess the way I would word it,
So can we withdraw that motion first? Because I agree with that. I think that's the way to do it.
Liddy
To
made the
take into account, you're gonna need
So
some
I'm
mulch
withdrawing it for
compost
Liddy.
too.
I'm
Okay,
gonna stand in as Liddy's proxy and withdraw that motion unless anyone is annoyed by that.
No.
Okay. Okay, So does anyone want to have take a stab at proposing a motion with details?
Before I take a stab at the motion, I think what I'm hearing you say is that it would be a tree up to $700 with the Conservation Commission putting in $350 out of Cougar Fund. Is that? And how
Sort
big
of.
a
The
tree
way I
are
would
you
see it is
thinking?
this.
Wait, but I
would
just wanted to hear from Bruce before we make that motion. What caliper tree is a $700 tree? Because that's bigger than the 3 to 3.5 here.
I'll have to research it, but I would say that that's close to 4.5, even 5-inch caliber.
I mean,
It
I would
doesn't have to
think
be
that
that big.
the motion should be, and the way that we are seeing our program start to take form is that the commission authorizes an expenditure of up to $350 from the Cougar Fund, which shall match $350 or more dollars from the landowner. Because that way, if they wanted to get a larger tree, but to put in more money, that would still leave us, pretty concrete on what our budget was for that, but leave them some flexibility to go up if that's what they wanted.
At
Is
that
is
value. with
landowner the
money-
right word there? Or do we have to have something?
I think it has to be the landowner.
I think it has to be because it's
that's
a,
whose tree you're planting. I mean,
But
that's
I mean, the Linden, that's the, who's the landowner there? The town?
though the Templeton Farms, I
Okay.
think, I do not think it's, and that Tegan is the president of that. And
Yeah.
she's on this email.
This shouldn't be the backracks to sign
No.
it. Yeah,
Nope.
no, they can pay the money, but
right.
the
Right.
grant does not
Just
go
didn't
to
want us
the,
to back into a ditch that we couldn't get out of afterwards.
At that
No,
dollar
but we would
value,
need to confirm that the property actually there is owned by the Templeton Farms, whatever their conglomerate is called.
Mhm.
Which Tegan is the president of.
At that dollar value for Conservation Commission contribution, we could do 5 trees a year for 6 years with the money that's now in the Cougar Fund. That's a lot of trees.
Right, and I don't think, I didn't picture, or at least I personally didn't picture 5, I pictured more like 3 property owners. Just
Just a reference.
to be able to, rebuild as we go. I don't want to get too ahead of ourselves.
No, I'm just putting it for reference, like that
Mhm.
would fund a lot of trees.
Yep,
can we make the motion?
I think you just did, and I will
Did.
second it.
Can I restate it then for myself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
The motion is to approve an expenditure of up to $350 to be matched by at least that amount.
And it's owned by Kent Housing for the Elderly Incorporated.
but I think if we leave that open, that's totally fine.
The landowner.
Yes,
Okay.
and I think it would be good to add,
Go fund.
I think it would be good to add a linden that's a native tree to your motion. Cause I want to make sure that we,
Native linden tree.
and I will second that.
Okay. Are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Now,
All
let
in
me ask
favor?
first, Bruce, are you willing to buy that tree and deliver that tree then?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I'm glad you brought that up. I was thinking I should probably do it before. There is some transport cost in there. What I've done in the past is I've just charged whatever my transport cost is. But if they get a much bigger tree, that may have to be transported by the nursery. So that can be a factor that we have to deal with. But it
But
would
we've
just be-
authorized up to $700
Right,
basically
exactly,
there. So
so-
I think that we're
Right.
saying a tree inclusive of transport needs
Right.
to be under 700.
But I will
Because they
always-
can
I will
charge
always-
$400 for transport. So-
Right. I
Right,
will
but
always
so
get-
then that's a
Everything.
smaller tree, but we get that,
Right,
Right.
I will always get them wholesale, but what I do down there when I get it wholesale is I pay tax So that's, we can't do it without tax because I'm the one buying it.
Mhm.
Not that I, make any money on it, but just so you know.
Sure.
But if the town bought it,
Right.
I don't, so just because it's easier, unfortunately, doesn't mean it's right. So I don't know that we need to figure this out while on our meeting today, but I
No.
think our town treasurer would need to be involved in, I would like to ask Barbara, because I don't feel right, as somebody who sees this enough on the nonprofit side, I just don't feel like it's right to subject the town to tax, through a payment through the Kruger Fund, when it really shouldn't be paying tax.
Yep.
So, but I don't know that we need to solve that tonight.
Nope.
We have.
I
a
have an
budget,
account
and the budget is the budget.
I'm tax exempt at least at Planter's
It
Choice.
still, it has to go through where the Cougar Fund lives. But
Yeah.
I don't think that affects the motion. I think there's a motion on the floor and I think we should move ahead.
All right, all in favor, please raise your hand.
Okay.
And if any are opposed, may I see your hand? And seeing none, that motion carries. Thank you. Yay, we're off and running. If not this fall, then this coming spring.
Bruce, I
Nope.
would just ask that you give me a text or a phone call when you're about to do this so that I can get there to take pictures for this fabulous brochure that we're foreseeing in our head. So I don't have to use pictures of you from 5 and 10 and 20 years ago. Just
You mean
saying.
when I didn't have blonde hair?
Yes, that's exactly what I was trying not to say.
Let's also keep in mind that while we can use email to keep everyone up to date, we cannot have a discussion by email. So let's just try and keep, aware of that in our minds. If we need to have a discussion, we can always have a meeting. If it's something that is just informing people, just don't reply all. Just, I don't even know that thank you would be good. You could reply to one and say thank you and not reply all.
I'm not even sure I can talk to my wife after I come home from a zoning meeting.
Oh, you probably can't.
I probably can't.
All right.
Just,
Well, thanks
just
to
one
you,
more-
Bruce,
just
for
one more
all-
quick thing. What I'm
for
gonna
all-
do is I'm gonna move forward. I'm gonna locate this tree, get a price, and I'll get that information to you, Connie, or to Yost.
I don't know, Yost, do you think that it's more expedient if the two of you work together? You've worked together so well before. I appreciate
Yeah.
knowing, but I don't want to insert myself as a middleman if that would just slow things down or not make sense.
Yeah, I can help Bruce with it.
I still think someone needs to get approval to plant the tree on this property. Like their board probably has to make a motion to vote that that's okay.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that they've done that yet.
I
So-
can write back to Catherine and Bill and ask them to set the wheels in motion for there to be an approval. I can CC everyone so that everyone else will be in the know that that's happened.
And you'll
Perfect.
call, what's her name, Herbst, yes? To get, to
About-
discuss how the money will move.
It didn't really seem like we had too much disagreement that the money should come from the town. So I'll work that out with Liddy.
Okay.
And-
Bruce, can I add you something additional that we talked about last time? We were wondering if you as tree warden have any say about if people want to take a tree down, a street tree along their property. Do they have to get permission from you or not?
So downtown, there are no trees on town property. There is no town property. There's just a sidewalk and the road. So that's not a situation. If someone else out in the country wants to take down a tree that's on town property, they absolutely have to get permission from me. And we've fined people for taking trees down. So the answer is yes, but downtown it's either state or private property. There's no town property to plant on. except for the
Yeah.
parks, but we don't plant that.
And what about the trees that the town has planted or that have been planted by Kent Greenhouse or whoever? Is there anything that limits people then from doing something to those trees?
I
No,
think the
the-
question here is, if you're a private property owner and somebody planted a tree on your property, do you need to get any permission before taking it down?
Nope,
That's what I thought.
no.
Let's not tell them that, though.
Well, I don't know that anyone really thinks that, you know, I mean, I hope it would give them a little bit of a, you know, an ethical pause before, you know, if they had received the tree for free and it was planted by the town, but that is just, you know, another reason why it feels better and more sound to have a cooperative landowner with some skin in the game when you do a planting program like this.
Which may argue for prioritizing residents over business owners because the likelihood of longer term ownership and interest in the property.
Potentially, yeah. But we'll see. Let's see what the response is to our program. I'm excited.
Connie,
Um,
before I go, can I ask you just one question?
Yeah.
Those trees that we planted along Elizabeth Street, the owners paid for half of those trees?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was
We have
totally.
the documentation on file.
And you actually, we got billed double. I had to talk to Nick about it a couple times because there was a problem with billing.
Oh,
Yeah, we paid you, they paid half. And some of the property owners heard our meeting a couple of months ago, and they were like, wait a second, we paid.
Oh, God, how small.
Except for the Kent Center School plan.
Yeah, no, not the Arbor Day, obviously, no, yeah.
yeah. I
But we're
was
talking about
unaware
the
of that.
ones on Elizabeth Street, like, the O'Meara's, the Kent School ones,
Yeah,
Darlene Brady,
yes.
um,
Okay. I was unaware of that, so that's great. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
All right, Bruce, well, thank
thank
you.
you, Bruce.
Oh,
Thank you, Bruce.
should we ask for some update on the railroad spraying?
Oh, can I do that quickly? Yes, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to draw this out. So we're running into a stone wall, let's call it, with the railroad. They won't talk to us at all, even though we have the okay of conservation commissions, for selectmen and the mayor in New Milford. So what we've decided is we're actually at this point going to try to go through the Housatonic River Association to see if they can't apply the pressure that we need. Since we started talking about the railroad herbiciding, I don't know whether you all had noticed the extent of the herbiciding on our highways this last summer. It was unbelievable. I mean, exponentially increased from the year before, and that was exponentially increased from the year before that. So by going with the Housatonic River Commission, if I didn't say that in the first place because I mixed them up, so River Commission, we're hoping that they will actually be able to react to both the herbiciding along the state highways as well as the railroad. So that's where we are right now. The railroad is a pretty difficult group of people to deal with, that's for sure.
What about the Connecticut health organizations? Wouldn't they have something to say about this?
You know, Wendy, we're getting a lot of pushback. I've been to the Water Commission. I've been to the Water Conference. There's another group that's out there, and everybody goes, "Oh yeah, that's a great idea." But there doesn't seem to be any way for us to be able to proceed, to be able to talk to anybody. We're not getting good response from our legislators. I think that they don't want to get involved in it. There is a group and a bill that was proposed to stop the herbiciding on our highways. But that didn't go anywhere either. So, you know, where you would think that this should be something that we should, you know, take care of as soon as possible before it does get out of control, as I see it happening now. We're just not getting the response.
They pause when they go past the fife and drum. I mean, the kitchen is right there by the railroad tracks.
They have no commitment to stop anywhere. And, you know, when you get down past the town, from there all the way down to Hatch Pond is all wetlands.
Mhm.
And there's no question they're spraying in the wetlands. They can't avoid it. The track's only, 10 feet wide down through there. So it would be really easy for them just to say, yes, we'll watch out for, specific areas, but they won't. I mean, if you read the Massachusetts regulations, you would be amazed at how smart and they are to deal with these issues, and how they have to conform. This railroad has to conform to their regulations in Massachusetts, but they just won't bring it down. We did get them to stop using method 240, which is the worst chemical on the market right now. It goes right down into the aquifers. But other than that, we haven't made any headway at all. But we're not giving up. We have another meeting next week, and we're going to keep hammering away at this until we get something
And
done.
you've tried Maria Horn on this?
Yeah, we've tried Maria. Maria knows what we do. We keep in touch with her, but we just can't get any input. It's frustrating. But I'm persistent. Ask the guys at Housatonic Meadows, the DEEP. We finally planted all the trees that they cut down. We planted a total of 36 trees, so that they paid for. So we'll get it done.
Right.
It'll just take some time.
Done.
We paid for as taxpayers, right?
Well, yes.
And that makes up somewhat for the enormous number of trees that they have to salvage from the oak die-off from the spongy moth. So
Oh, it's terrible.
the-
I just
they're-
cut down 60 trees on my own property, or I'm in the
Yeah.
process of cutting down 60 trees.
Let's keep planting them.
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, Bruce. Keep us up to date on that. Let's hope that there's a space to get some good work done over the winter while they're not needing to spray, and that we come back as tough as mugwort next year.
Oh, well, that would be tough. Wendy, I'll be happy to work with you on any project that you want to get this,
Okay.
off the ground.
Okay.
All right, I'll have a good night.
After the
Hi,
planting.
Bruce.
Yeah.
Bruce, you too.
Good night.
All right. So we're going to move to 6B. That felt really good to have this positive resolution on our tree planting, and it'll be great to get this program up and running. Hopefully the other agenda items that we have tonight are not going to be quite as long, because here we are an hour later and really only at the tip top of our agenda. So 6B is a report out on the farmer protection ordinance. And as you may have noted from the materials that went out prior to the meeting, I was able to get our revisions on the agenda of the Planning and Zoning Commission and to conduct a discussion with them. They made a few recommendations, which I've distributed to you for your consideration. I've not been to the Board of Selectmen with the revisions yet. It seemed like by the time we had this, that it made more sense to go to a new board so that we could explain to them the history and get their read on this. The meeting for the other ordinances already happened. It had been scheduled. There'll be another meeting to adopt ordinances. In the meantime, we've all agreed that there really shouldn't be a reason that anyone would be using this ordinance because Kent does not have any noise ordinance. So I can bring it up on the screen if that would be helpful, just to show everyone the proposed revisions that P&Z suggested. Would you like that?
Sure.
Okay, so that I think was PDF, so we'll flip into here. It's loading.
There's a very minor typo in number 2. Where
Yeah.
there's a cross out and it should say is engaged in, the word the should also be crossed out.
Right.
Okay, you're right. I don't think that even
No big
let's,
deal.
that would be the right way to change this so that we don't have a grammatical error. So basically the concern was that the ordinance read, first there was this idea of a recognized farm, which it's really unclear how a farm would be recognized or not and what that meant. And I think that's just, extra language that does nothing but muddy the waters. The idea that that farm would be engaged in the act of farming as defined in this ordinance, it isn't defined in the ordinance. So these are things that were, most likely in the original model, I think much of which came from New Milford's, that we didn't focus on. But, thanks to P and Z, we were able to correctly, make it foot with the definitions on the second page of the ordinance. So agriculture and agricultural operations are defined. The act of farming is not. And then the third comment was this idea of like solely because such activity resulted or results in any changed condition of the use of adjacent land is just plain confusing and doesn't do anything to clarify or help promote the whole reason for this ordinance, which is basically that anybody who's engaged in agriculture and agricultural operations as defined in the ordinance, nothing that they're doing consistent with that shall become or be considered a nuisance. So I thought those were all really good suggestions. I don't know if you have a different, if you see a different reading. So I open it up for comments.
That's all good.
Yeah, I was happy with the suggestions as they were revised too. So I stamp it with my approval.
Me too.
Okay, so hold on just one second, because I have to keep turning my car on and off, and then every time I turn it on, the radio comes on automatically. Okay, so I think what we should do is, move to accept these changes into our document, and then we'll press on by going before the Board of Selectmen. Is that fine?
So move.
When do the new people come in?
They get it in 10 days. Well, 10 days from yesterday, they get sworn in and take office.
Can I
Mhm.
just accept that motion also? This so when we make a motion, if we would please remember to second it first, and then we can go to discussion. Just because it's for procedural reasons, it can make it really hard to follow if you start leaving these threads hanging. So does anyone want a second?
I made the motion, so someone else has to second it.
Am I
I'm gonna
allowed?
second. Okay, Mike can second. Is there any discussion? And if there's not, all in favor, please raise your hand. And if anyone's opposed, thanks, Wendy, raise your hand. And seeing none, that motion carries unanimously. And I will turn this around and get on a select board agenda. Okay. 6C, materials management in Kent. So there's a report out, I think, for the trash talk that happened on October 25th.
Well, I thought that Jean might be here to report about it, but I think that given the time component tonight, I don't know, unless somebody, I didn't get a chance to view it. So I would just be curious if anyone else saw it, and was it all positive, and we just keep moving in the right direction.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I had a conflict.
Did not see it.
But I don't think there's anything we need to do tonight about it, so.
Okay.
I have one potentially easy question for you all. And that is this. Rick Osborne has brought up to me a couple of times, I have brought up to him a couple of times how much we dislike the fact that you can't recycle black plastic simply because Winter Brothers machinery doesn't recognize black plastic. Rick suggested to me last weekend that the Conservation Commission could write a letter to Winters Brothers, encouraging them to allow some sort of aggregation of black plastic that they could just pass up the line and not worry about it fouling up their recognition. I don't know if they would go for that, but it seems like Rick would be willing to collect black plastic that could be handed to Winters Brothers in a different way and, you know, make us all feel better when we order out Chinese food.
So I guess my one question would be to check with Brian Casari at the greenhouse, since a lot of their materials come in black plastic. I wonder if they're already sending their black plastic somewhere that they would be able to take it from Rick, as opposed to if Winter Brothers can't, you know?
I mean, there is a lot of black plastic and it is.
There is, but I think that a lot of it is like materials that are purchased for planting and such, and so
Mhm.
I've tons of black pots.
yeah, it doesn't compare to your Chinese takeout container. Connie
Yeah.
doesn't eat Chinese food, but you know what I get. Like there's a way, you know, maybe it's a actual conversation with Brian Casari.
Maybe it's both
Yeah.
of those things, Melissa, because people bring all of their, you know, like, so Brian may have a source for that, but other normal people who buy things at the nursery and plant them have no choice but to toss all of those.
Right, but I'm wondering if
And that's annoying
Brian
too.
has the capabilities, and it's simply Rick bringing them over to wherever they collected at the nursery or whatever. Like, I just, you know, it seems like
I
we
mean-
might be swimming upstream
Well,
with Winter Brothers if it's already
think-
being solved in our town.
I think the question really is that, is this an issue that we want to pursue and put some energy into in solving in some way? And I think it is. Either by the letter writing or by kind of exploring what the greenhouse is doing or doing something about it, but it is something that, would we be effective in this, since obviously Rick is not and the town is not paying attention to it? So is this something we want to pursue?
Maybe the first step is to ask Melissa if she's willing to find out what they're doing.
I think we have to do both. I really do, because I doubt that Kent Greenhouse would love for everyone in town to bring back their pots to them. Although if they're willing to do that, that's a huge lift and that would be fabulous. But
Well,
I
and
don't,
that's about community, which is what our town is really trying to embrace right now. So if
just
they're willing-
wonder about the volume of those takeout containers. And I think it may be more than just one business wants to take care of. But I think what we should do is actually pursue both at the same time and see if either work.
So
Yeah,
we're
I
gonna.
don't think you need I mean, do you need a motion
No,
for that?
I don't think we need a motion to
do.
this. I think it's just an
Right.
initiative that we're gonna start paying attention to, specifically the issue of black plastic.
Yeah,
Yep.
good.
I'll reach out to Brian.
Great. Yeah, okay.
And Connie, you're gonna write to Winter Brothers care of us or
Yeah. I'm gonna write a letter.
through us?
Okay, POCD, planning and zoning revisions about open space set asides. There was a meeting on November 2nd. I heard about it, but didn't go to it.
Haven't watched it yet,
I went.
but I will soon.
I attended it online. So they made a number of changes. Thankfully they also looked at my recommendations. And
Yeah, Yost, way
welcome.
to get into the letter. I mean, basically, Glenn presented all of Yost's comments. You know, like Yost's letter was in the file, and then Glenn did a crosswalk, you know, basically helping, and I think this was really great of Glenn to do,
add his
helping
own name to it.
the Planning and Zoning Commission to filter out the things that are like no-brainers, where Glenn was like, yeah, we should just make that change, from the things that actually might need to be discussed.
Yeah, so there, I don't know if any of our members read the zoning or the subdivision regulations or the changes that were made or that the planning consultants listed there, because
Give
otherwise
us like
it's a bit
the
hard to do.
high elevation, whether it was good or bad.
Yeah, well, there were good things. One thing, they're doing a let's see, how do you call it? For the open space that would be set aside. So it's now based, it would be 15% or 40 or 50% in conservation developments, and it the amount of buildable area versus unbuildable area would be prorated. So if half of the land of the parcel is unbuildable anyway, then half of the open space set aside would have to be, or at least half would have to be on buildable land. So they don't just set aside land that they can't build on anyway. So I think that will probably work well, or at least I hope so. But he did change the steepness of the slopes. We had before 25% slope and steeper were unbuildable, and now I read 15%, and they didn't pick that up in the meeting. So I want to write that should be 25%. Otherwise, they'll leave out a lot of land, and I don't think that would be reasonable. And
I think it would
then
be important to make the argument, make a conservation argument around that. So, you know, not just to point out the change, but to point out the potential detriment to the environment by.
no, it's not in detriment to the environment, but it's not in line what's in the conservation subdivision or in the conservation development regulations and the zoning regulations. So I think it's a mistake. They had it originally in the zoning commission regulation, also 15%. That was changed to 25%. So now the 15% shows up again. It should be 25%. So it's just a mistake, I think, or oversight.
A
But it's an
scrivener's
important
error.
one. What?
A scrivener's error.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I don't know.
But not one with a conservation impact, is that what you're saying?
Well, it would make more of the buildable land unbuildable, or wouldn't be part of the of what counts as buildable land. So there would be very little buildable land left over.
But the whole reason it's unbuildable, a steep slope is unbuildable.
Right.
Is because of the potential for erosion.
Right.
Right? It's
15 to 25% is moderate, and it is buildable. But let's see, another thing. The town is now included as an option for ownership of open space. That was brought up by Mike Siska, too, the lawyer. And they added for agricultural purposes, but under the town, they now also added for municipal purposes. Open space can be set aside for municipal purposes. That seems very broad to me, because a school would be a municipal purpose. I think this should be limited to things like town beach or whatever, things or river access, and not to all municipal purposes.
This is subdivisions, though, not conservation subdivisions. Is that correct?
This is subdivisions, yes.
I don't know how far I'm willing to go on that. I mean, some the town does need to do better with its acquisition of its own municipal space, both open space, recreational and otherwise. And I don't know,
But
you know, when you're doing a subdivision that is specifically labeled as conservation subdivision, that to me does call for an open space or an actual conservation
Mhm.
set aside. For a regular subdivision, if, I mean, I don't know in what world a school would be cited in the middle of a subdivision, but it seems to me that I don't know how hard I would argue that that should only be for open space. I think it would make up for a better subdivision, and so most developers
Well,
would go.
the state statute is much more limiting. And allows for certain municipal purposes like recreation and conservation under open space set asides. It doesn't allow for many other municipal purposes. So I think they phrased it a bit too broad, personally.
Right, but then of course, like the town of Goshen, like Goshen's ordinance on land acquisition funds would allow for this is apples to oranges, I realize, but Goshen in providing for a land acquisition fund, provided that the funds could go to municipal needs, including housing.
Right,
So-
but that's under a different statute than this one.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's apples
Right.
to oranges, but I'm just saying that, like, when planning and zoning is considering a conservation subdivision, that the set aside, I think, need be for actual conservation at that point. But if they wanted to make a subdivision reg that allowed for a set aside that, you know, the town could take ownership of the set aside for the purpose of having a ball field, for example, or, you know, having a community garden, that I don't, maybe I'm supposed to be a better advocate, but I don't know that I would die on my sword for that.
And how
So
do
what
you
do you
feel
recommend?
about,
That it's, what do you recommend that we do or that it say?
I recommend we do nothing. I don't mind that decision is what I'm saying. Nothing that
Okay.
Joseph
Mhm.
has told me so far has given me great pause. Although it's really interesting to hear what they did, but I find the Planning and Zoning Commission to be pretty respectful of the POCD and the guidance they'd received from the town on conservation. And so, I don't, others could feel differently, but so far I haven't found anything that I think we should really engage on.
there was some discussion about private roads, should they be allowed and should they be up to town standards? But the commission kind of leans toward allowing them to be less than town standards, which I like, because I don't want to see all 24 feet roads that are all paved. And so I think it's good if we allow some smaller roads, and that the like the dirt roads that come off Route 7 North, that they can still do things like that. I think it's more rural, fits more into Kent, doesn't have to be look too suburban.
Yost
And I
does
brought-
allow for fire trucks and things, even so.
Well, that's something that they can discuss with the fire company. That there's
I did
provision
want to
made for
say
that.
that I think that we should try to wrap this meeting. I don't even know, I'm looking at my battery. My laptop battery is not going to last forever. It probably is waning a little faster because it has to throw a light on my face for me to be sitting in this parking lot in the dark. Yost, is there anything that you felt strongly that we should be commenting on?
Well, let's see, there's also then on the
Like,
16th.
I mean, is there like, so just, I mean, maybe just give it 10 seconds, look at your notes
Yeah.
and see if there's anything that jumps out that you really
the
think. I don't think
conservation
we
of
have
total-
time to go through the whole thing.
Right. The conservation developments are still not mentioned, except that the place, the open space set aside where
Right, but you have
they
made that
added that.
point to them
I think
at
it
least 5
should.
times now. What did they say about why they decided not to do that? Like clearly at this point, it's not an oversight anymore. It's a choice that they've made.
Yeah, that's a choice that Glenn made. He thinks it's in the zoning regulations. You don't have to mention it further. But, well, I think when you look at the subdivision regulations, it should be one of the first things that comes up. But I also wanted to mention that so on the 16th there will be a special meeting on the conservation development. They rewrote that a while ago. So if you want to take a look at that, look at the planning zoning commission, their agendas, and then the folder for November 16. You'll find these new regulations and read them, see if you have a problem with it.
Okay, great. Thank you. Welcome, Jean.
Hello, everybody.
We
Hi.
are in the waning of the computer battery phase of our meeting.
Oh, geez.
We are also in the updates as needed phase of our meeting. So I'm going to ask people if there isn't an update to just say no update rather than than have discussion. Is there, I don't think that there is an update on Kent Municipal Open Space Acquisition Fee in lieu of open space regulation.
No.
I know that this was something that Lynn Worthington wanted to work on. So perhaps we will have occasion to work more carefully on that in the months to come.
I did read that the money has been paid, so the money has been received by the town.
Right, the one in fee in lieu
Right.
has been completed. The Green Energy Task Force, anything new?
Nothing new.
Okay. We did Housatonic Herbicide Working Group. Sustainable CT, anything new?
Nothing new.
Okay. Regional Recycling Task Force, anything new?
I think they had a meeting was that this morning or is it tomorrow morning?
Was this morning, tomorrow morning, Thursdays, right? Thursdays.
I'll have to look at my schedule. If I'm open, and they have a virtual option. I can try to hop on. They haven't been, they've been doing them in person. I have petitioned Jen Heaton Jones.
Yeah, good. I hope that they do. I hope you are successful in that. It would make it easier for us in Kent to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
So new business, and I really wanted to get to this, folks, because I have been doing a lot of consulting with land trusts on succession planning. Succession planning means finding people that will succeed you so that your business or whatever organization can go on. And so I've been consulting with boards all over the place, doing webinars, doing this with the Kent Land Trust. And I don't know why I didn't realize that I was not heeding my own advice. I was not walking the walk, which is the longer you stay in a position, the harder it is to get somebody to replace you. So I'm letting you know that I do not intend to be the chair more than 6 months from now. So that gives us some time to do a little bit of planning, but also I want to make the comment, and this is what I do with all my clients, that anyone can lead a meeting. There is nothing magical about being the chair of an organization. And it is not good for an organization to have the same person year after year after year after year. It would be good for the Conservation Commission to have a change. And I would like that very, very much so that I could contribute in a way that was more about the content of this group than running the meeting.
Okay, we'll have to think about that.
think
I
along
must say,
with
you've done a very good job as chair.
I think along with
You know,
that
there's
is
ten.
another very important thing along with that is that we have one definite vacancy, or do we have two? I think we have one official vacancy as a commissioner. And then we can also take on other people as advisors as we wish. Is there no limit? I'm not
To
confident.
be clear,
about-
we only have
We
one,
only have an alternate.
yeah, we only have an alternate.
All of our commission seats are filled. There are 5. And we have
Can
2
other
alternates,
people-
and we only have
Other
one.
people can not officially be part of the Conservation Commission.
Our
if they're
meetings
not
are open
doing-
to the public, Carol, and anyone can participate in our meetings. The way we've run our meetings has been very open.
Right,
and-
right. No, I get that, but I mean, we can't say that somebody else is a member of the Conservation Commission unless they are in that one additional alternate position that we now have open.
That's right. The way that it works is there are 5 appointed members
Mhm.
of the Conservation Commission and 2 alternates. And strictly speaking, and we've never been a strict organization, but strictly speaking, when votes are taken, if all commissioners are present, then the alternates wouldn't vote. But if one commissioner was missing, you would elevate an alternate and allow them to vote.
So just in terms of our own infrastructure, I really want us to think about filling that vacant position. And if we can do that as we go forward in the next couple of months, that would also be really good. We're very busy and we need more manpower. We need more people power.
We have 6 members. 5 members.
We
and
have,
then
we
one
have
alternate.
room for another alternate member. If Melissa, if that's the correct way to say it.
Yeah, you said it correctly.
We
And
also
Mike,
give the opportunity
wait,
for
Mike,
come in.
Mike, if you have an interest in being the chair, I'm sure any of us, including myself, would bump down to an alternate for you to go up so that you could be the chair. So I'm putting it out there, Mike.
I hear you, but I'm making no commitments at the moment.
There you go.
I
Can
would
I jump in for
encourage-
1 sec?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry. So just so everybody has a full understanding, it's the number of members is set in the town ordinance. But if you're finding, if the commission is finding that they're having a difficult time being able to address everything, and the Conservation Commission's, scope and sort of what they're looking at has, in just my 4 years, has really expanded, just the sustainable materials piece of it. You could present, a change in the ordinance to the Board of Selectmen and go through that process and add, ask for another 2 members or ask for, another member, another alternate, but it is, there is an option. It's not completely etched in stone. It's, it's an ordinance, so town meeting, etc. But it's definitely doable, and the new board will have, there's a town meeting in January. There'll be an, if they don't get the rest of the other ordinances wrapped up before then, it will, it'll either happen then or probably after, because they're going to be heading right into big budget season. So there's probably 2 opportunities in the next, 7 months to be able to bring that fairly simple idea to the board. Just something to think about. And I brava on the succession planning conversation. It's such an important conversation to have.
Here's just some food for thought to add to that conversation. That if we think about what's been happening, Connie conducts the meeting at the same time that she's taking the minutes, at the same time that she has the title of chairperson. And those three things can be separated. So that if somebody else could be taking the minutes, somebody can conduct a meeting and somebody else can still be the chairperson.
I want to be clear. I'm not going to conduct the meeting 6 months from now. I'm willing to continue taking minutes. But the thing that is hardest is to actually contribute substance when you're being the chair. That's the hardest. That is the place where I find the most angst, because I feel like I'm trying to participate and also coordinate and not overbear, and it takes a lot of energy and time. So when I think about what the chair does, or what I do here on this commission that is inextricably related to being the chair, it's running the meeting. You're not going to lose. I mean, you might if you wanted to, but I'm not suggesting that I'm not going to contribute in terms of content anymore and keep up on, you know, the current issues or have an update. You know, all that content will stay, but I don't want to lead the meetings because someone else can and should.
I guess what I'm saying is that, I mean, I think this is something we all really need to think about, because I think you have to keep an organization young. And, you know, and I keep thinking we have to look for younger people, but it may not be that we need younger people. We just need active people. But somebody may want to step up and run the meetings, but not want the title of chairperson. So just throwing that out, we just have to look at the whole picture here.
Yeah, but you're
That might be
functioning under
true, but I'm
Robert's
not going to be
rules.
either of those things. I'm not going to be the chair, and I'm not going to run the meetings.
I know, but I'm throwing it out there for other people to think about in terms of who might want to think about what roles they might want to do. So
It
you have
is
to look at the
important
whole
not,
picture.
it's important not to smudge that too much, because you have to, we're still living by Robert's rules, and the commission needs to have a chair who is, you know, the point person for the Board of Selectmen, the point person for all of the stakeholders that they interact with, external, internal stakeholders. And it's maybe next month you pull out Robert's rules and just look up the chair section, and that's the baseline of who that, you know, how that role is going to get filled. But I agree. I think that it would be easy to either appoint a secretary, or I know a lot of groups and organizations actually put it out to their membership. Everybody signs up for a month to do the minutes. I'll do it in February, you do it in March, this one does it in April, blah, blah, blah. So that everybody, so that the work is spread out and shared. And if you follow what Robert's rules says about minutes are not a big deal. Everybody can do them the same way. You can create a template. So nobody's burdened with the minutes piece of it. Just a couple different ways to think about it. But I think it's important to.
I want to say hi to Tom. Hi, Tom. Hi, Tom. Don't go away until you say hi. We're all saying hi, Tom.
He's getting hungry for dinner. It's like,
As are we. We'll recircle about this next month, right, Connie?
Yeah, and I just want to encourage all of you, any of you. I mean, although, Yos, I don't think you can statutorily, but to, you know, consider it. It's a little uncomfortable in the beginning, but the only reason that I'm now comfortable with going, I'll entertain a motion, is because I've done it 10,000 times. But it's not like, it's okay to, it's not hard. It's just different, you know, it's just a different way of being, and you all could do it. So I just want to put it out there, you know, and we could potentially, have people try it out, practice, kind of demystify the fear of what it would be like to chair the meeting. I really believe, that anyone in this group could do it, and that different people have different leadership styles that are really useful to explore and experience. It will be better when I step down. I'm telling you that. I know this. So we can continue it. Let's put it as an old business discussion item for our December meeting and give some thought. And if any of you want to talk it over with me, hear a little bit more about what my experience is. I mean, at this point, let's be real. Carol puts the agenda together. She's already doing half the role of chair. So there's a lot of different ways to approach it. But if you wanted to kind of troubleshoot what it might look like, how it might be different or not, just bounce some ideas, get in touch with me one-on-one, and we'll
We
continue
have
the
to do
discussion.
a lot more of divide and conquer. A lot more of who's going to be the point person on a particular initiative. We really have to share the responsibilities all around a lot more to make it less troublesome for whoever might want to step up. But again, think about maybe between now and next month, think about adding that who we'd like to invite to consider being part of that extra alternate spot too.
All right, good. Moving on for now. All right. So item 8 is correspondence and upcoming events. Want to take note that this upcoming Saturday is the Kakiwik Conference. Yos, you going this year?
No, I didn't sign up.
So I don't know that we'll have anyone present. I'm sure that there are other things that people are doing on a Saturday in the fall. It's never the most convenient time, to be honest. And if there is no further business, then we can take a motion to adjourn at 8:08. Anyone want to do that?
So moved.
Melissa, anyone want a second?
I'll second that. Tom will second that one.
Yeah, go get your dinner. All right, all in
Hey,
favor?
oh, sorry. No, go ahead, take your vote. Oh, wait.
Adjourn. And what is it, Jean?
I just wanted to say huge thanks. I think now officially would be 10 days left. 20th is my last day, and without getting weepy, which has been increasingly harder for me to not do. I just want to say thanks for persevering with these big projects, the pay as you throw, the composting, sustainable materials, everything. I'm just very grateful for everything that you all do. You all are, you just year after year do the hard work that, not a lot of people pay attention to, and you still just come back with professionalism and passion. And it's a joy to come to your meetings, honestly, because they're just lovely and well run, and I get the sense of you all have your hands on each other's backs, and that's how it really should be. And I will miss them. I'll probably check in with you all from time to time just to say hi and keep interested, because garbage is a thing that is really interesting to me, and sustainable materials. Never knew that would happen, but I just wanted to say thanks to you all.
And there's a position open, right?
Yeah, well, Jean, I do want to, say thanks to you for being a frequent presence at our meetings. It's been nice to have you aligned with us, and all of the tremendous efforts that you have made, just while in your position as first selectman. So thank you for all of that. You, of course, are welcome to attend anytime, and
you.
we would love to have you stay involved.
Awesome. You will see me again.
Happy to talk trash with you.
I love
Good.
talking trash.
All right, it's now, does anyone else want to, I'm sorry, I don't want to cut off the dialogue, but
No, did Wendy leave already?
she dropped off a while
Oh, she
ago.
did. Okay, fine.
So it's 8:11 and we will adjourn and I'll stop the recording.